Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending Tableau Server and Cloud Admin Talk. My name is Mark Wu. I'm a Tableau Server admin, Tableau visionary, also this group lead. Today's topic is Tableau Cloud Migration, tips, tricks, lessons learned by Christopher Scott, who is not from Tableau, but a Tableau ambassador. Okay, this is a user group. This is about how we can get things done better by leveraging, by learning from each other. Just a quick logistics. Everyone is actually muted during the whole session for better recording quality. Please use Q&A button to submit questions at any time. Of course, it's a user group. Everyone is welcome to answer everyone else's question. This is a community event. Chris and will try to answer all your questions either at the logical stop or at the end after the presentation. Do we record this session? Of course, recording started already, and I will post a link in the chat. I'll show you the recording location. This is where you can find all the previous recording as well. Let's get started, Chris.
All right, thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been a long time watcher of the server admin user group. I'll tell you a little bit of my story here in a moment. But yeah, it's a pleasure. I met Mark at Tableau conference this year for the first time. I think we may have met just in passing in past prior conferences, but we got to know each other this time because I was involved in one of the server sessions at Tableau conference and the Tableau Cloud, the new features. And so Mark had asked if I wanted to present on this topic, and I told him I'd love to. So yeah, and honestly, this. I talk about, I don't know if many of you, and you can feel free to share in the Q&A or the chat if you can resonate with this, but there are a lot of us in the Tableau community that we like to call ourselves accidental Tableau server admins. We kind of fell backwards into this role. So as we've kind of grown in the in the Tableau world, as we've grown in our skills and aptitudes within our companies, like I said, I literally fell backwards into this in the server administration. And so when it came time to really assess where we were at with our server, and then kind of try to plan on what our future state would be, it was up to me to determine what our Tableau, whether we were going to stay with on-prem or whether we were going to go out to what is now a Tableau Cloud. So that's I'll dive into that journey, but again, that's kind of how I ended up here. And I usually have a slide for this, but I totally left it off this time because I was so focused on the content. But I'll introduce myself. So Mark said I'm Christopher Scott. I am a Tableau user group ambassador. I lead the Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group. I also lead an internal Tableau user community here at my company here in Raleigh, North Carolina, at Enact Mortgage Insurance. So what you're going to see today is kind of a little bit of both my story as a server admin, but also our story of kind of where we're at with Enact Mortgage Insurance as we moved from our on-premise environment to Tableau Cloud. So you will see some of the problems, the challenges that we had, and how we moved to Tableau Cloud, and all of the benefits that we reaped from that migration. So at any point, again, please ask your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them as we go along. That's what I wanted this session to be. I wanted it to be more autobiographical and allow some questions so that we we can engage and network together. So I'm sorry, okay, yeah. And All right, so why Tableau Online, or now Tableau Cloud? That's the big question. It's a question I'm sure a lot of you have thought about, that I thought about it. We thought about it for years when Tableau Online first came out, and now Tableau Cloud. And so for us, the biggest driver for all of this was in what we have termed our data modernization strategy. So, being a cloud first, cloud centric data, having all of our data in the cloud, essentially, to boil it down. And so for what as we were thinking ahead, thinking in the future, it just kind of made sense. And so again, I wanted this to be autobiographical, so I'm going to just kind of address some of my thoughts that I had as I was processing, because honestly, from the day we first started with Tableau Server, it actually happened years before I got to my current company. The thought was, okay, we're gonna have Tableau Server, and for the sake of this group, I'm not going to go into why we have Tableau Server, because you all understand that. But why we created an on-premise environment was because we wanted that flexibility. We wanted the ability to scale up, scale down, to be able to add more memory if we needed it, to add more clusters, do this and that, and that's fantastic. If you're at a large organization, you have lots of data, lots of users, and just a lot of different things going on, and you don't want to be burdened by some the restrictions that for instance, like the Tableau Server, what am I thinking of? Unlimited licenses, the core model, sorry. So you have a few different options with the server. So that's why we started that direction. But as we progressed, as we found, really found our groove with how we were utilizing the Tableau Server, and as we started to run into issues, which we'll go into right now, we started to run into some issues, which I know that some of you have seen this screen before. We started to see, okay, we're going. If we continue down this road, we need to do some things. We need to upgrade. We need to purchase more servers. We need to get some more space on those servers, because managing, even so, this is from what I've seen, this is a pretty typical cluster model here. Tableau helped us when we had our first server, so we were very thankful. They came out and helped us do this, but they set up the 4 nodes. It was a very, I'll call it vanilla structure. So Tableau created this kind of vanilla structure for us for our server. We did some modifications, some tweaks over the years. But when it came down to, over the past year or so, we just started noticing more and more data sources were failing. It was taking a long time for workbooks to upload. We would see things like this where nodes were just failing. The syncs were failing. We were just continuously kind of I'll call it like pot shotting. Like we would see an error, and then we fixed that one. As soon as we fixed that, or I guess kind of whack-a-mole, right? You'd see this one, you get that one, and then no, all of a sudden something else would start to happen. So it was at this point we decided, okay, we've got to come back to the table, and we've got to say, okay, let's start with a blank slate. What do we do from here? What do we do moving forward that's going to not only solve our problems that we're having now, but also solve future problems? And that's where we really started to kind of make a pro-con list and say, okay, it's very expensive for us to maintain this physical hardware. Or the other option was, okay, let's take our existing model of on-premise and just move that out into, a cloud structure. For us, an AWS EC2 instance, or cluster of instances that would essentially do the same thing. They would function like our Tableau server, but they would be out on the cloud. So that was another option. But again, we were thinking, that's very resource intensive. So in line with being a smaller organization, we were thinking of how do we best optimize and realize our resources that we currently have, and that we have a lot of other tools in-house that are this software as a service model. So as we were doing our assessment, we were evaluating our current needs. So essentially, I'll just break it down just for the final time. There were three options. We build another server that looked like ours, either on premise with our own hardware. We build it out on the cloud, or we go to a software as a service model, in this case, Tableau Cloud. And so ultimately, one of the biggest concerns was security, and Tableau has done a fantastic job of outlining their security models and everything. And so ultimately, all of the questions came down to, okay, who's going to support this? How can we go forward with this model? Are we supporting it, or is Tableau supporting it or hosting it? And those were the two. That was the final decision, was what is it going to be? Because all other concerns, the security, all of the things that we had been concerned about in the past had kind of been assuaged. All of those things had been appeased, and so now it was, okay, who's going to support it? So ultimately, we came down to the decision of Tableau Cloud, and so that was so what I'm going to outline for you now are some of those ABCs. So as we made our decision, we said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to go to Tableau Cloud. Which is, I'm sure, again, the purpose here is to kind of share our story, as I know a lot of you are thinking about this same thing. Now we're going to get down to some of the brass tacks, some of the actual nuts and bolts of what we did between the time where we decided, okay, we're going to do this. We're kind of future proofing. We're thinking about our long-term strategy. We've made the decision. Okay, now how do we get from A to Z? So how do we move all of our content, all of our users, all of our subscriptions, every bit of our Tableau server that's on premise out into the cloud? So what I'm going to kind of outline for you here is a lot of the what I did with myself, some folks from my team, with Tableau Professional Services, as well as some other key individuals within the kind of partner realm. So there were a lot of kind of hands doing a lot of this between our planning with our project management, as well as the actual physical movement of the content and users and things like that. So you've made your decision. Part A is anticipate. So this was the biggest piece. I'll kind of give you a timeline. I didn't write this down because it's extremely confusing, and so I don't want to belabor kind of the actual timeline of it. But essentially, we started a POC in the summer of 2021. That was about a 3-month POC where we just really wanted to just test the waters. We wanted to get our feet wet. We wanted to see what kind of challenges would we come up with if we literally just opened up a Tableau online account, Tableau Cloud account, and we just started dumping some data out there. We started putting users out there, starting to get them to use it. And I'll be honest, it did us no good. We ran into, and I'll preface that with, it was myself and our Tableau account executive, as well as the solutions engineer. So it was 3 individuals. We didn't treat it like a project. We didn't do a lot of the things. We just kind of said, oh, we know Tableau Server, like, let's just move the stuff and just start doing it. And that was the biggest fail for that POC, was not anticipating, it was not planning, it was not treating it like a project. And in doing so, we really we really did not get the full advantage of the POC. So when December came rolling around, and that's when, again, you get to go back to that image, you saw a node was down, and we had to make some decisions, because going into the new year, we were like, okay, if this is it, we either have to do this or we do this, because our current structure as it existed was falling apart. We couldn't push band-aids any longer. Everything we had done to band it up to this point was done. So we set out into December, literally over the break. We had people out of office, and we were trying to make all of the decisions for licensing and all of these things with Tableau, that essentially we came down to the point where we were like, okay, we're doing this. So as of January 1, the day I came back to the office, we sat down and we made a plan. We treated it like a project. We brought project management into it. We brought technical resources. We had Tableau. We invested in professional services. So that, even before we get into the nuts and bolts, having the right people in with your environment, and in your project is critical. And so let that be a lesson. Let my failure there be a lesson, in that you can't do it all yourself. You need the right people surrounding you and helping you to plan this out. So number one thing, I've already said, you make the pros and cons list. So that actually kind of goes beforehand, sorry. So, but also always think about kind of the cost, the resources. Now, as you're planning out this move, think about your current licensing model. So I always think about this, like, how many creators do you currently have? How many viewers? So for us, we were on the perpetual model. They had changed the names, but in essence, it was every user had a license on our server. That included creators. So we had double the amount. So if you're thinking already, I'm kind of on that old model, we're kind of grandfathered in, think about now every creator has versus a creator has to have a desktop license and a server seat. So those are some challenges that we kind of came up with along the way. Also think about, do all of your interactors, as they were previously called, do all of them need to be explorers? Do they all need the ability to web edit? Do they all need the ability to create new data sources? Do they need to be able to edit things and do that level of in-depth exploration? Or can you kind of revisit your pricing model and say, well, maybe a majority of them just need to be viewers, and we only have a kind of limited scope of explorers. So for us, in order to maximize our licensing, we actually kept all of our licenses, our interactor licenses, as explorers, because we really like that flexibility of being able to ramp up and ramp down our users. So if an individual comes in, they automatically get an explorer license to our server, and that allows them to kind of have flexibility. They and we'll talk about content management here in just a moment. But within their sphere, it allows them that flexibility, which I have found is really, really helpful, and gives them the full breadth of the tool, rather than just a very limited kind of read-only view of a viewer. So again, think about that. If you are core based, this will be a little bit of a shock coming back into to Tableau Cloud, because you will have to evaluate each of these roles. So just again, thinking about planning, having the right people in your group, on your team, really helps you to analyze your this model. Now, Active Directory. Are you currently on Active Directory? A lot of organizations use Microsoft Active Directory. So I personally know this because I've been at 3 organizations that have all used Active Directory. It is it's a very ubiquitous, I'll say is the best word, product. And it at one point, or I mean, even on Tableau Server, it is the default kind of check option on Tableau Server. Tableau Cloud does not allow for Active Directory connection. Now, there are, and we'll talk about this in just a moment, when we go to building out in the actual method, but if you do want to continue to utilize Active Directory, there are some hoops, some things that you'll have to jump through as you migrate to a cloud native Active Directory. So just think about that. If you do have Active Directory, you will need to migrate either to an Okta or one login, or you will need to migrate to a cloud-based Active Directory for your licensing. Your storage needs. Mark and I were just discussing this right before we started. So you'll need to go through, assess your current storage allocation. Have you been on a non-core based, your own per seat license, and you're managing all of the storage on your own devices, and you've just been able to throw whatever you want out on, and your users throw whatever they want out on your Tableau server. And now you're sitting with a couple terabytes of memory. So Jeff, I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so have you been able to to assess that? If you did have a bunch of of data sources and workbooks, and you've kind of let it be the Wild West of this development environment, that's fantastic. But now you need to just really start thinking about and planning, how do we want this allocation to happen? Because and that's what I'll try to get here. Yep, each site can house only up to 100 gigs of data. And for us, the shock was that included workbooks, data sources, flows, everything. So it's not just 100 gigs of data for your data sources. It's everything that's in your workbooks as well. So as you start to process, maybe you need to go and store some of your stuff out on AWS or Snowflake and create those live connections to those data sources, and not create a massive log of gigs of storage space for extracts. Maybe you need to do live connections. So Tableau and the partner environment can help you to assess your those things. And honestly, that's where I'm just being totally candid here. That we want to, we're in that, not, I wouldn't say struggling, but we're in that conversation right now as we start to move more things onto the cloud, realizing where is that threshold, where's the line between where you have your extracts, you want the fast performance, you really need those extracts on the server, versus use things like Snowflake to really house all the data. And the beauty of this is not a Snowflake conversation, but the beauty of having the compute and the storage on separate, as separate warehouses, and then being able to really maximize that storage capability of Snowflake, so that way Tableau doesn't have to get bogged down by a whole bunch of extracts. So I think there's definitely some some back and forth, some thresholds. So Jeff asks here, so I'm gonna try to, and then Mark, if you have any thoughts here. So he says, do you lose flexibility when moving to Tableau Cloud, i.e. trusted authentication, IP whitelisting, Active Directory integration? So I'm going to dive into the Active Directory integration here. There are parts, and actually, let me, Jeff, I'm going to move into my next session, or my next page, because I think I'll address some of that. In essence, yes, some of it. There's an element of what's on the cloud, and then there's an element of the firewall. And I've got a picture that Tableau provides to showcase that. There's an element of that where you do house some things, some IP whitelisting, Active Directory, all those things on your side of the firewall. And so there are pieces that move back and forth. For us, and we'll talk about Active Directory right here on the next page. For us, the Active Directory was actually a factor of moving that Active Directory to Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So we were able to still leverage all of the things that were already in place with Azure, but just now we there's just one more sync in step between our Active Directory, the Azure, and then pointing to Tableau Cloud. So yeah, so I think I'll answer that one, the rest of that in just 1 second. So all right, so let's talk about, I'm sorry, I totally forgot to to put that on my animations here. So the B for this is B, backup and bridge. So what the second step is backing up. So taking all of your data, putting it all, backing it up, so that way you've got it all, so you're ready to migrate it. And bridge is the key element. I thought I understood what bridge was before we did the migration, and I kind of had an idea, and Tableau tried to explain it to me. And so I'm going to try to give you a little bit of understanding of what bridge is here. But it is the absolute essential linchpin for any organization that is using on-premise data, whether that data warehouses, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, DB2, any of those instances, and also file-based data sources. So if you've got CSVs, if you've got Excel files, you've got raw data files coming in from anywhere, bridge is the connection that is 100% the linchpin to Tableau Online. So here we go. So we're forming the full backup of all content. We did run into some issues here where, because of our existing storage space, so I will just put it out there to learn from our issues there, that this step is absolutely crucial. And if there are issues that you're having, do work with Tableau, work with a partner to try and help you some way to grab all of the data within your environment. And then also think about your content management strategy. This was so critical. We're going to talk about that in step C. But again, thinking about the project-based permission structures, this is really critical as you move content, because you're moving users in, and then you're moving the content. So as you think about, the way that you have it structured, often you'll see, and I mean, I'm just, again, speaking from experience here, is that you will see some of the glaring holes of, oh, wow, that permission structure, there's a gap there. There's some red flags. So really taking this opportunity that you're doing a backup, but you're also doing an assessment as well of your environment, and seeing kind of your security gaps, your flaws, your holes, where you're going, oh, well, we need to get that under control. Because as the engineering phrase, we use this a lot as we did our migration, kind of garbage in, garbage out. We didn't want to move garbage over. So things that we just kind of assumed were working in our old environment, we didn't want to move that over into the new environment. We wanted to kind of start fresh and have a good model, have a good structure on there. So yeah, so again, so what is Tableau Bridge and why do you need it? This picture, I've used this to explain to our senior leadership. I've explained it to our IT teams, everyone, what it is, and this is the best way I can help to describe it. So again, Bridge is, we've set our Bridge up on servers. You can set them up on an individual machine. So as we are we're not in a traditional kind of SDLC like waterfall methodology, but we do have a lot of systems in place for server management. So we've kind of taken the best of both worlds. But what occurred with Tableau Online was obviously those live connections that we had to our on-premise data on server, they went away. So the biggest piece here is just kind of describing having these bridge clients living somewhere that allow you to connect, again, making that connection between your on-premise data and Tableau Cloud, Tableau Online, Tableau Cloud. So what's great about this is it not only provides you connection to your data warehouses, it also provides you connection, and the only connection, I feel like I'd make a big asterisk there, your only connection to your file-based data sources. We didn't, I honestly did not realize the scope of this until we kind of got in the weeds. But the scope of this was really, we had a metric ton of live file-based data sources that individuals would update these Excel files or do X, Y, and Z. And that was great because it allowed, somebody could go in, make a change to this field or this data set, update this data, do what immediately on Tableau Server, it was updated. There are some security, security concerns with all of that as well. But for the majority, it was great because it allowed us access to a live, I would almost streaming view of these data sources that users could control, and then ultimately they could see that refresh immediately on the server. With Tableau Cloud, obviously there is that bright red line here, where we've got the firewall, and so all that data now lives outside of our network. So we have to find a way to do that. Now we've kind of been creative, and we've created some different schedules with our bridge connector that allow us to do a seemingly live view of the data. But just know that there is some creativity there. But essentially, if you're questioning what Bridge does, or anybody has questioned you what Bridge does, I found this to be the most helpful diagram of what is Bridge, how does it function, and then ultimately, what is the security methodology behind Tableau Cloud? Like what are we doing when we're sending data, when we're putting our on-premise data out there? How does that all work, and how are credentials and authentication, all of those methodologies? So this is the biggest piece here, and understanding how this Bridge client connects to the on-premise data, whether it's a storage drive or whether it's the data warehouse. Those are very critical things to understand. So we've talked a lot about backing up and anticipating, planning. All of these pieces are kind of critical to understand because you're going to encounter them along the way. And so again, I just like, if I were to go into a new organization and doing this backup, these are things that I would put in place before we ever even started any of the migration. So what we did so again, before we even moved the content, we realized we had to move the users. And so moving the users automatically, these things can happen really easily. If you're using Okta or One Login, it's a very seamless structure. For us, however, again, I mentioned before, we were using Active Directory. We had to figure out a way where we could tap into those permission structures, those groups that were already created. Going back to the content management strategy of understanding how our groups were connected to projects. We had done, I'll kind of give our team a pat on the back here, because we had already set up that structure where a group is assigned to a project based on their business needs. And so that's Tableau recommended that to us a long time ago. We took them, into consent, and we utilized them, and that helped us really so that way all we had to do was migrate the groups, assign the groups to the content, and then boom, all the users flowed into those groups. So it is a lot more complex than that, but I will say, as long as you have your content management strategy mapped out, the migration of users and content becomes just so much easier on the back end. So I know I've been talking for a little bit, so I want to make sure we get all of this underway, but I also understand there could be some questions too. So I'll just kind of breeze through. This is really, again, talking about the content management. Really, I don't want to, overlook this. Understanding how your site works, the who and the what, your individuals for the groups, and then you have your project structure, which allows you which allows each group to access the content that they need. So you're not just assigning users to content, you're putting them in groups which have access to the content. So this was actually, for us, the single site, which things that allowed us to migrate to Tableau Online, Tableau Cloud. The single site methodology was only doable because of the nested child permissions. So those of you that have experienced this understand that now you can have a child project within a parent project that actually contains separate permissions. So you could have a sandbox environment, a test environment, a QA environment, things like that, that help you to delineate between what is, test development, just kind of scrap workbooks, versus what is actual true production, live data, things that are, really, but also it allows you to keep a single data source so that whether somebody is using a, just kind of testing out, they want to just create some visuals, or they're using truly in a production environment, they want to see those data sources. Speaking of, and I'll go back to the question about size. This also helps you to pare down your size on your server as well, because if you're only using a single data source for both your production environment as well as your sandbox, you can have one data source that's supplying to multiple workbooks, and this will help you to keep down on your content, and on your storage utilization. So the last one, I want to kind of go over this pretty quickly, is the actual migration. And this would not have been possible at all and I'm just saying this from my experience. I am the Tableau, I'm like the Tableau poster child, because I am the code-free person. So when Francois got up on the stage at Tableau conference, started talking about model builder and started talking about code free, bells were just going off in my head. Like I was the spotlight. This is me. My success in Tableau as a developer, as a server administrator, as a site administrator, as a user group leader, is the fact that Tableau persists as a code-free kind of environment. Yes, you can do code on it, but you don't have to. And this is where a content migration tool comes in, because very quickly you can create plans, sign into one server, sign into another server, choose what projects to migrate, what workbooks, set up your transformations, select your mapping, select your users, do all of that within this one simple graphic user interface. It does use the REST API. So if you already have a REST API built, or if you want to take this and utilize the REST API, you can do all of that. There's actually a function within here where you can take the script that it uses, modify the script, and then utilize that REST API to migrate your stuff if you are so inclined, or if you need to put it in some kind of system where you can automatically do those things. So I love this. As of right now, it's only available in the advanced management add-on. So we were able to kind of utilize the pre-release of the content migration tool for our migration. Talk with your AE, talk with your solution exec or your solutions engineers. You may be able to utilize this as for your migration. I'm not sure how the licensing and everything works, so this is not my saying Tableau will give it to you, but do work with them, because again, the onus here is that Tableau and our community wants you all to be successful with server. And so if getting this content from here to here is paramount, this is a tool that Tableau has developed So I would say that you could probably work something out. Again, I'm not making any promises, but in your migration, in that whole the licensing structure and all the money that's going back and forth, I'm sure that Tableau can work with you to help you to utilize this, especially if you're like myself and did not have access to the REST API, didn't know how to code, and you're the one in your organization that's responsible for getting your Tableau server onto Tableau Cloud. This is the tool for you. And so I put that out there because, again, without this tool, none of this migration would have been possible. So like I said, if you have successfully set up your content strategy, and you're using permission structure, you've done your Azure, you've done your Okta, all of these things, this will allow you, as I said, to move your projects, your data sources, your group permission, so you can set up those transformations. You can map your users. You can move your workbooks. Now you can move subscriptions and even flows in the latest update of Content Migration Tool. So this is a one-stop shop for all of your migration, and literally it's as easy as checking a box, setting it to move over, and again, kind of have to play with it. You have to understand your transformations, things like that. So again, that's the Content Migration Tool. Extremely powerful, but it's made for individuals like myself, like some of you, who you're it for your organization. And so this, I just want this to be an encouragement to all of you that you can do it. Now, the last thing I'll mention, some post-migration issues that you might have to look out for. Keep an eye on your refreshes. There will be instances where you've got that live source out there, or you've got those connection strings that are, and your refreshes are failing. So understanding, keeping an eye on that on your server and just watching it, seeing what's failing. Why is it failing? In the latest, so this is about prep flows, but I'll just kind of give a little nod here. In the latest iteration of Tableau coming out in very soon, 2022.3, there are now over, I think they said over 400 Tableau prep error notifications that are coming out. And so that is going to make it a lot easier for us to determine, why did this fail? What is it? A connection string failure? Was it, something that failed along the chain? And so, understanding these processes will help you as you start to see, because I guarantee you're going to see those refresh failures. Your on-premise database connectivity, cannot stress this enough. Whether it's file-based or to a data warehouse, understanding each piece in that. We had security issues. We had, we had user accounts. We had things, all of the above, working, having, again, going back to that very first thing I said about planning, having the right people on the team will help you as you get to these issues, you encounter them, they'll be able to pinpoint and say, oh yeah, it looks like that's getting blocked from here. And I guarantee I will put my hand out and I'll put my money on it. I can guarantee it has to do with your bridge and how it's connected to that on-premise data source. So understanding how those things are connected is going to really help you to pinpoint those refresh failures and your connectivity. The last issue, understanding your subscription issues. We encountered an email configuration that we didn't foresee. Had we have addressed this back in the summer, we really understood what were our user accounts, how was the email configured, we would have understood, hey, that email account is an internal SSO based email account that can't receive email subscriptions. So what we encountered was that challenge, and we just didn't have the right people. It was, again, I had no understanding. I moved our entire user base over with our SSOs. They could not receive emails. So because it was from an external account, what do we have to do? We had to literally create brand new users using their new emails and then create that into thing. Now, we have asked Tableau to add it as a feature request where you can update the user's email aside from their user account name, but just be aware of that email configuration. Again, learning from our issues and our hurdles that we encountered, so that things go a lot smoother for you in the future. But as we have hit this post migration, we got it done in about 3 months. So from March, where we started in earnest, till the end of June, it took us about 3 months to get all of our content over. And these are still things that we're working through, and it's now almost the end of August, and we think we've got a handle on all of this, and we can confidently say because we've shut down our old environment, we can confidently say we are now fully on Tableau Cloud and experiencing the joys and the frustrations of that come with being fully on a fully managed service there. But for sure, for us, the pros outweighed the cons for maintaining our own on-premise environment, or even maintaining our EC2 instance of that of a Tableau server. So that, again, these are the constant challenges, the things that we learn and grow from. Could we have seen a lot of these things a lot clearer and had a lot more smoother migration? Probably. But personally, I learned a lot along the way, and I think you will too. That as you walk through this process, and you just as you get your hands on your data, your users, your content, you will understand more and more about, and it helps you to be a better server administrator. Because you now have seen and touched it all. And so hey, this data source is just problematic. So I'm gonna develop and devote resources to that data source because it's large, it's housing. We've got I don't know, 90 data workbooks are on this one data source. So I know that's the one. If anything goes down, if I get an email about it, that's the first thing I'm going to look at. So it just helps you to be a better server site administrator because you now know a lot more about your data. So I see a lot of Q&A here. Let me see if there's any. I see a lot of that has been answered. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to try to take them one by one here. Mark, we have 10 minutes? Is that right?
Yes, all right. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll kind of answer them. And then I know Mark, like I said, Mark has been answering them kind of offline. So I'll try to answer them as much. I'll start at the top. How do you manage cost ingress with having data on 2 cloud solutions because of the 100 gig limitation? So I think I'll have to kind of understand the cloud solution, whether it's the cost of Snowflake and the cost of Tableau. That's one where I think you just have to kind of work with your account executive and determine, is it right? Again, 100 gig limitation is kind of the stated max. Tableau can work with you to increase that limit. But again, you have to think of the cost per, the cost benefit analysis, right? The CBA, you have to think, is there more value for increasing your storage from 100 gig to 200, 300 gig on Tableau Online, or would it be more to beef up our Snowflake, maybe go to, and again, I'm kind of learning Snowflake right now, but go to maybe a medium or large data warehouse, scale that up and out, and then determine, hey, is it more beneficial to have that storage done over here or over here? And so I think what you're going to see as you kind of compare the compute costs and storage costs is AWS and Snowflake are going to be very, very minimal per usage. And so I think they're designed to be more cost effective to store more there than Tableau would be. Again, think about what is Tableau. I didn't start here, but think about what is Tableau. Tableau is a data visualization tool, right? all the things that it does extremely well. It's one thing. It's data visualization. So doing that and doing that extremely well is what our servers are designed to do. They're optimized for that. Storing massive amounts of data, it's probably not the best thing for Tableau to be a resource hog on. So I'll leave it there. Mark, did you have any thoughts on that? That's a really—
No, you go ahead. A bunch of other questions. Yeah, feel free to
Okay.
answer the
All
rest.
right.
Yeah.
So increase in response time compared to on-premise. Actually, yes. So there were, I think there were a lot of the issues. Again, that goes back to where we were storing the data. But what we also did, I didn't mention this at all, but we started to really utilize Tableau Prep to do some of our ETLing. And so when we ETL the data sources in, created the extracts, used Prep to, and Conductor to create those output data sources, we were able, instead of connecting live to that big view and table out on our data warehouse, we were able to bring it into Tableau again, because Prep uses Hyper, right? We all understand that. Because it uses Hyper, it condenses the files. You're talking about, we have direct results, 60 gigs of a raw file brought down to about 300 megs using Hyper. So those kind of storage and compute resources, you're not using up a lot of space on your server, and the fact that you're able to bring it in. So yes, the fact that we were able to kind of, as we revisit a lot of our content strategy, yes, overall we saw a massive lift. But also the fact was, as you saw, we had a lot of issues with our current, our hardware was out of date. We were experiencing storage, so not only was it reaching its ROM, or the read-only memory, it was also the RAM too. So we kept having to bump up the RAM for performance. So just, I think, unless you're willing to devote just gobs and gobs of money to build these massive, super performant, data, servers, the cloud is always going to be faster. It's using the best technology that's out there in a really, really rapid manner. So I think for those factors, yes, we experienced immediate performance increases. All right. Install the Tableau Bridge client. So we installed it on dedicated servers. I'll say multiple servers, and they're really just dedicated virtual machines that live within our firewall, but they are dedicated virtual machines. So we could have put them on a laptop, but we have a really good kind of proxy and authentication. I'm not going to belabor. I don't understand it, so I can't even pretend. But we have a good security model in place. And so with your own servers, or again, I'm using these terms synonymously, but like virtual instances, where you can download them onto those. When you download Bridge, and I love that you asked about the network storage and the database servers and drivers, because when you download Bridge, it's just like downloading desktop. It comes with the drivers. And so when we install Bridge, we actually installed multiples, so it can, and we've allowed it to do a default pool. Which, if you have any questions about that, I'll be happy. All of my information will send out in the deck. I'll add my contact information in the deck when I send that out. Feel free to email me. I can talk to you about the default pool versus pooling. You can actually designate your resources for which pool that you use with Bridge. So it's fantastic. We use default pool, which Tableau has said, I know this is recorded, I know they've said they're getting rid of default pool, but until they can solve the issues that we and a lot of other folks have had, they won't be getting rid of it anytime soon. So it essentially designates automatically which pool it uses based on available resources. So I know I said a lot there, but it's fantastic, and I hope they don't get rid of it, because it just picks the server that is available, and it runs on that one. So I'll try to answer. I know we've got like 3 minutes.
Yeah. You want to
So-
speed up a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. So obstacles push you toward the cloud option. As I mentioned, you know, we were our hardware was just out of warranty, and it caused us to really dictate whether we wanted to build something else, whether we wanted to manage it ourselves on a cloud instance, or whether we wanted to really utilize our resources for better things like the analytics, right? What is Tableau all about? It's about the data visualization. And so, so where do we want to focus our energies? It's on that piece, on bringing more data in. All right. Too much maintenance based on the way you set up your system. Yes. So we set it up for probably a much larger, you know, system and much larger organization. So what we found was that we didn't need as much as we had, and we needed more. Actually, we needed more performance systems. And so that, I think, all things considered, with our move to the cloud, it just made sense. So yeah. All right. How do you approach testing out new features and capabilities? Are you using multiple cloud sites? If you have, if you use a Tableau's premium support, which they recommend with any cloud instance, you do get a beta. I'm sorry, you get a beta site and a sandbox site. So I highly recommend signing up for Tableau's beta program. That way you can have your own site dedicated for testing out new features. And then the betas are locked down, so you can publish up some of your own data because you'll have your own personal site. So same security. You can apportion your own users for beta. So yeah, and last, I'll answer this one really quick because I love this one. TSM command on Tableau Cloud. Yes, you can, but it has to be a Tableau authenticated user account. Any kind of SSO or Active Directory will not work. Or SAML, I'm sorry, SAML will not work. It has to be Tableau, or now, because I think they're requiring this on all Tableau instances. It's a Tableau authenticated with multi-factor authentication. So yes, you can, and that's actually how we handle a lot of our automated refreshes, is through our TSM command. So yes, I think we are 1 minute. So if you have questions, continued questions, please, I'll send my email out. Send them to Mark, send them to myself. I'll be happy to answer any questions offline. Mark, thank you again for this opportunity. I love, like I said, I love Tableau Server and Cloud now, and it has totally changed my perspective on what is Tableau and how we can better serve our organizations with Tableau, not just creating, you know, cool visualizations, but really getting data into the hands of as many people as possible. So, so my outlook has been changed for the better. Mark, it was a pleasure to meet you at conference and to get to speak to this group. Such a great group. I look forward to seeing more and being part of this community. And yeah, and if you're in the Raleigh-Durham area, come and see us. The Raleigh-Durham Tableau user group coming up at the.
Thank you, Chris. I wonder if you have a few more minutes, you can try to answer a few more questions.
Yeah, sure, I do. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're still hanging with us,
yeah, this can continue. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So did you save money or spend more to move to cloud? I don't know the exact specifics, but essentially we tried to go parity. So Tableau was able to work out with us a 1-to-1 cost ratio for our what we were spending for our current licenses with Tableau Server, and try to put that into a model. So I would say work with your account executive. They've got all of the numbers, and they can massage things and move things around. You know, they are. I will say the last thing I'll say. Tableau is actively invested in really a lot more folks utilizing Tableau Cloud. It really, I think it's a mutually beneficial, from what we have experienced and what I've seen a lot of folks experience. It's a mutually beneficial service to utilize Tableau, because they know their server. And so I think for us, it's yeah, it definitely. And Mark, I'll steal your words. It was Mark had said that he recommends, you know, new server users don't go try to build your own. Go to Tableau Cloud, because it's so user friendly and so simple to get started. And I think it's cost effective, right? One creator is all it takes to get you a Tableau Cloud instance set up, and then you can build out from the scale down from there. When will the Tableau Cloud be HIPAA compliant? I don't know the answer to that question.
Either I Google, I couldn't find the answer.
Really good question. I think if there's anybody from Tableau that can answer that. All right. Does the content migration tool allow for remapping of host name? I do believe it does. I did not get that that in depth with it, but the what they call it, transfiguration, not transfiguration, that's not the right word.
Yeah, I heard this was new feature.
Yeah, so data source transformation, the mapping, and all of that, you can get really down into the weeds. And as I said, all of this is based on the REST API. So if you take this script, so it allows you to essentially export this migration script, open it up in your REST API editor, you can edit it right in the REST API. So that's what's wonderful about this, is that you're not stuck to this little box. If you want to get in depth into it and really do those really minute details, you absolutely can. All right. Perillo, I love it. I love your Perillo. We had a very long talk about cloud at Tableau conference in a brain date. So I highly recommend coming, if you come to Tableau conference, or even I think there's brain dates that are still going on. They're fantastic. Just really small groups where you can talk about these things. All right, process of moving from cloud to server. Yeah, I can't answer that question. I know that if we ever ran out of space on our Tableau Cloud environment, or if we decided that we really needed more flexibility, I can't think of a reason right now why we would move off of Tableau Cloud, especially with the enterprise advantages that Tableau is giving us, and the advancements that are coming with each iteration for enterprise. They're making it so that I say this honestly to everyone on this call, that Tableau is making it every iteration, I feel like, answers one of our objections. Like, oh, well, if only Tableau Online or Tableau Cloud did this, then it'd be perfect for enterprise. And then 2022.3 comes out, they're like, okay, we got you. And so I think they're listening. And that's been really exciting for me as a site administrator, server administrator, is that Tableau is really focusing on those enterprise capabilities. So I love it. Saved Salesforce OAuth. Mark's answering that. I'll answer for you too. It's yes. That's been fantastic for us in making it easy to really utilize those data sources. How many users were you supporting for the move to Tableau Cloud? We had roughly almost 500 users and about 80 to 100 desktop users. So we were kind of determining how we wanted to move forward, but using being able to move all of those users to Explorer, like I said, really helped us to scale up and scale down with their permissions, rather than forcing them into the box of viewer, and then they go, oh, well, I even had this instance yesterday. Somebody came up and they said, oh, I need to, I see this data here. I need to know, this by this, but over the, quarterly. And I'm going, oh, that's perfect. Because you're an Explorer, you can use web edit, and boom, I've already published the data source for you. You can get in and start creating your own visualizations. And immediately that user was able to use the Explorer, his Explorer privileges, rather than saying, oh, well, I've got to go reallocate a license and I got to go. And so a lot of what we were doing before was kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul, kind of that analogy, where we would say, okay, well, we've got 100 licenses, but this person needs Tableau Desktop to do this and this. And I really am longing for the day where there is true parity, like there is on Tableau Prep, between what's on the server and what's on desktop. I'm longing for the parity because I really do have hopes for a lot of our end users that are using Tableau Desktop that really don't need Tableau, don't need to be able to ask more questions and use all the full functionality of desktop on the server. All right, let me answer content migration tools. It helps to migrate the content quickly from Tableau Server, Tableau Online. All permissions, folders, groups. Yes, that's literally what it does. We did it project by project just to make sure that if something failed, if something didn't get migrated, we could kind of do it, but it didn't take long. We took kind of ate the frog, as it were, as that analogy. We took our biggest projects with the most number of data sources and we migrated those first, so we could see what failed and be prepared. But like I said, our content migration strategy or our content management strategy, we already had that in place. So if you're at all thinking about it, that migration, start thinking about your content management strategy now, because when you get to that point, you'll go, oh, we've already thought about that, and then the migration is seamless because you know exactly what needs to move over and you've already dictated those things.
But Chris, I think the question is, does it migrate the permission? I don't think so.
No, well, it should if you map the users to the content. But no, I think you're right. I think you need to, I think you do need to assign them.
I'm not quite sure if migrate the permission. My understanding is does not migrate the permission.
There is
also,
some mapping that it does, though. I do remember that.
I think so. I can verify that. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take that one offline. I seem to remember doing something, but it actually didn't work for us because of the SSO issue. So we ran into issues there. Okay. Yes. So let me take the next one. Migration of all data sources from on-prem to online was seamless. Any specific challenges post-migration? The only challenge that we really ran into was the live sources. So as I mentioned, a lot of people had data sources that were on a network drive connected live to Tableau Server. Those to keep as they updated. So they would update their files. They would update on Tableau Server. We had to change all of those. Now, the wonderful thing about CMT, in that data source transformation, you can say, change all of those live connections to extracts using Bridge. And it did it. And I was blown away. I think maybe we ran into a few issues where it just didn't do them correctly. There was also some security issues because of you have to have your data sources on a UNC path, which if you don't understand what that is, I can't explain it exactly, but the UNC path was necessary for those files. So we had to create a new UNC path and then point all of the data sources to that. Thankfully, it was just a shortcut. So that was wonderful because we didn't have to actually move anything. So all of our existing processes stayed in place. But you have to have a UNC path to connect to file-based data sources. So the only issue with CMT besides all of that, I'll answer that. There's another piece to that. The user mapping, I've told Tableau this, we have a feature request for CMT. I hate that it maps users after the content. If it mapped users before, like just after projects or just before projects, that would have made our user mapping 1,000 times easier. But none of our users got moved over with the mapping because it happened after the content. And then when we went to map users from this domain to this domain, it failed because it said that user, or I'm sorry, the ownership failed because that user doesn't exist because the mapping didn't happen until after the content was moved over. Whereas if we could map it, then we would have done that before, and then the project, and then the owner would have been the newly mapped user. So I think that works. That makes sense. If you have any questions about it, that's one of the issues, and I'm happy to talk through CMT again. connectivity between SAP HANA systems and other DBs. I don't know the answer to that one. We don't use SAP HANA.
Okay. Yeah.
Extra security required for going cloud. Yes and no. Tableau has a great SOX 2, and now SOX 3, which is an additional layer of security they built in and audit trail. So we did, again, the key was having bridge and understanding traffic that was flowing from bridge out to cloud. We have made it a practice, and again, I'm not, this is the third time I've said it, so if I say it 3 times, my mom always said that's, something to write down. Content management strategy is critical because we already had such a great content management strategy. Everything that we moved, we knew exactly how it would be utilized and who it would be utilized by, and the fact that nobody can access your site. So unless you give them permission to access your site, and I think you may have already answered it, Mark, about the guest user. You can turn that off, and we don't allow any external users onto our site whatsoever. So it is locked down. Your site is your site, and so again, content management strategy and having those permissions, the security was all in place. So moving our data out to the cloud was just like having it on our server because of the security that Tableau has put into place. Yes, anonymous attendee, you do have to have that R server and Python connect. It can connect to them. It is an extra step because we don't have any real world examples because we're using Python in AWS and other environments. We haven't had to set up that existing connection. It can work with your solutions engineer to figure out that connection. That's all I can say because we haven't had to yet, but I know it's possible. Admin reporting. Mark and I were talking about this. So I do 2 things, 3 things actually. I'll talk about the 2 things that work really well and the one that I wish that worked better. Mark Jackson has a workbook that he created from the which is now called Tab Admin or TS Admin data sources. He created them using the Postgres. You can download or connect to TS Admin from your Tableau Online account, and then you can do some replacing. Mark Jackson's Tableau Server admin dashboards are pure gold. It says who's accessed what, XYZ. There's a ton of stuff on there. I use that one every single day. So it helps with stale content. It helps with Mark Wu and I were talking about that just before, unused content, unused users, things like that. Like it really helps to do that stuff really well. And it's really user-friendly. So it looks beautiful. It's user-friendly. So Mark Jackson, UGA, it's out on his blog spot. You can download the workbook, connect to TS Admin, and then it takes, if you're a server admin, Perillo, I know you can do it. But I know if you're a server admin, you should be able to do your find and replace on the data sources to get exactly what you need. I had no problem doing the replace and getting everything from one data source on TS Admin. The second one is the Admin Insights that's available to you as soon as you log into Tableau Cloud. It's wonderful. I love it, and it's just like the Server Insights on your Tableau server. It really is beneficial for storage usage, account activity, things like that, like how many people are accessing it. The one that we really want to know is some combination thereof. I want something that tells who's been accessing it, how often, so just a kind of more, there's a lot of stuff. Ravi Mistry built Project Griffin, and a lot of the stuff that he's created, I haven't been able to replicate using TS Admin. So there's a lot of things that I really wish that Tableau would kind of open the Postgres to, but they are doing a lot more with the TS Admin to give you access to the Postgres. So Data management and advanced management add-ons. We have not purchased the advanced management add-on because, like I said, we were able to get the CMT under the pre-release. So we did that with as part of our migration package. We do use data management, so we use the data catalog, and we use Tableau Prep Conductor. Those of you that are using Prep, I mean, I'm going to be candid. I'm going to be forthright here. I don't know how you're using Prep without using Conductor. If you're using Prep, you're ETLing your jobs. I can't imagine a scenario where you would not benefit from the extra investment from
great. Yep.
So, so that's just, I mean, that's my opinion. We'll leave it at that. But and Mark agrees with me, so I'm going to say I'm in the right here. Performance with Bridge. I'll skip that first one because this one's really easy. Really, really good, especially when we created dedicated instances. But also we created more than one, so that as we default pool, Tableau will go and resource allocate based on what's available. So that was fantastic, which allows us to, we really don't have, the only thing I'll say is this is across the board. So whether you're using Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud, prep flows are resource intensive. And I mean that by not only are they resource intensive for the RAM on your server, they also only run one at a time. So as we talk about that last one about data management, understand that you have you are limited in how many a prep flow runs. Nothing else will run while it's running. So be very cautious about your scheduling as you're running those flows. So I love Bridge has had its issues with connectivity, but as far as performance, I actually have had no issues. The only other thing, as we mentioned, back to Perillo's question and that one, the only thing I wish that you could see is right now, Tableau only allows you to see that something has been sent to Bridge. You can, if you dive into the extract performance on your site status, you can see how long an extract took to run through Bridge. But right now there's no visibility. Like if you're on server, you've got that nice bar. It says, okay, refresh started here. It took this long to run, XYZ. You can't see that off right on the top of the thing. So back to, Perillo's question, I really wish you could see that on the front end. And we've made a request to Tableau as a feature add-on to see that in the server admin insights, and also to run a subscription refresh a subscription when a Bridge refresh has finished. So I think overall, it's just a matter of performance is great, but the visibility into that performance could be better. So that way we could kind of tackle what's taking a long time, see if we could optimize those things, because it's a little bit of a black box right now. What about embedded workbooks that are connected to an on-premise data warehouse? Yep. So do you have to publish the data sources to the server first and embed them? Yes. So we have one that we're working on right now where we're embedding them into Salesforce, which is a pretty common occurrence. I've done it at all my organizations. And so with that data source, yes, we published the data source, connected the workbook to it, and then published the data source out onto Salesforce. So all of that had to be published to the server first, and then the licensing should be synonymous. There may be some issues between Salesforce accounts and Tableau accounts. Just make sure the users have access to both, and then they have access to those Tableau published data sources. So that's the only thing I can.
All right, you did it.
37 questions. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.